Hi, thanks for joining us for Devotionables, brief devotions for busy people. Is God concerned about your life? Does He work behind the scenes for your good and His glory? In a word, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, there is a certain theology or a belief that says that God does not intervene in this world, in our history, in the sense that He has created everything, that He set the world in motion, spinning on its axis, and then He just backs away, laissez-faire, hands off. We call that deism. But the authors of Scripture, they know such God. And the people of God know no such God. Because God is a God. He is the true God, who alone is worthy of our worship and devotion. A God who is intricately involved in over all His creation in every detail and every moment of your life. I've been reading through this wonderful book called Gentle and Lowly. He was trying to bring out a little bit of that in one of the chapters I was reading about the love of the Father, that the love of the Father has for you. He said, not even a single leaf, when you're walking down the sidewalk on a bright, sunshine, warm fall day, the leaves have already started to change colors, and not one single leaf just falls from the tree, and like just this, it catches your attention, it's peaceful. It brings you joy. Not even that moment occurs outside of the good, gracious, sovereign hand of the Lord. I've been reading through Genesis this year, and I had thought last night as I was finishing up, I just read about Isaac and Rebekah. And so that's in chapter 25. In these first half of the book of Genesis, God is anything but detached. Anything but detached. We see Him, obviously in the first chapters, forming and creating, and then how He pursues Adam and Eve. He initiates in that conversation after their sin, and He pursues Cain before Cain sins, and even afterwards, where's your brother, right? There, He is interacting with His creation. He comes down in chapter 11 to look over the Tower of Babel. He comes and He calls in chapter 12 Abram from the Ur of the Chaldees. He says, come, follow me. And He destroys Sodom and Gomorrah because their wickedness, their evil had come before Him and they deserved judgment. He's the God who brought the flood in Genesis 6, and He's the God who promised to never do it again in chapter 9. And here, there's a story. It's part of the story with Abraham and Sarah. You know, God had promised that through Abraham, all the nations of the earth would be blessed. That Abraham, if he were able to count the sand on the seashore, or the stars in the sky, he would be able to count his descendants. That Abraham would have a land, and so we see Abraham planting a tree in the land that he'll one day, his nation will possess. And inside this story of Abraham and Sarah is a story where Abram and Sarah were not living by faith. They were trusting themselves. And Sarai gives her servant Hagar to Abram and says, go into her. Maybe by her we will obtain a child. We will obtain what the Lord has said. Well, indeed, she does become pregnant. And then Sarai begins to look with contempt upon Hagar. And so Hagar flees, and she goes into this wilderness. And here we see the Lord involved in Hagar's life. In verse 11 of chapter 16, and the angel of the Lord said to her, behold, you are pregnant, and you shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has listened to your affliction. The Lord hears you. The Lord hears you. He heard Hagar, and He hears you. He shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. He shall dwell over and against all his kinsmen. In verse 13, notice this. This is what I want us to lean into here. So she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, You are a God of seeing. For she said, truly, here I have seen him who looks after me. Therefore the well was called Beer-lahai-roi. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. Beer-lahai-roi, the God of seeing. God sees you, He hears you, and He is at work in your life behind every moment, every detail, working for your good and His glory. As Paul said, we know that all things work for the good of them that love God and are called according to His purpose. Take hope, joy that may lead you to a greater love and worship and trust and obedience of our good God who is at work in your life. God bless you.